You're winning. You're winning. You're winning. You are winning with another episode of Epic Understanding, and I am your host, Coach Love. I'm very honored to be having this show today. It's one of the beauties of being able to have a platform such as this. I get to talk about Veterans Day in a way that makes me feel as if I'm doing it justice. I think it is fabulous when we have the parades and things of that nature. But as you know, I'm a curious girl and I like to truly understand what it is that we can do to make our veterans' lives better. Well, being that I enjoy understanding the human experience, and I know you do too, I thought that we would discuss veterans, respecting our veterans, mind, body, and soul. And today I have some fabulous guests for you, including our very own Dr. Lay. Hello, Dr. Lay. How are you doing?
Hello, 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 Coach Love. We are back at it again, right?
Yes, tag team back again.
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Awesome, awesome. I heard you were rocking the mic today. You did a live panel.
Did a live panel to introduce my emotional intelligence curriculum, shortened version, if you will, that I can stay under an hour to tackle some of the main components of emotional intelligence for military
Mhm.
service members. So, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Cool beans. And let's tell them you have men on that shirt. Does that mean you only, like men, or what is this about? What does men
Yeah.
mean?
So MEN stands for managing emotions naturally. I am starting up an academy, so it will be Amen. I haven't started that push yet.
Shut up. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah. I'm super excited about it because I think the academy is going to give me a bigger reach. But basically, we focus on employing emotional intelligence and the soft skills like empathy in
Mm-hmm.
our foundational communication, relationships, building healthy, intimate relationships with people and having a level of closeness, the bond, the trust,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just teaching young men, older men, middle-aged men, the effective ways of communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
You know what? Whenever I talk to you, you're always doing something cool and new. The last time I talked to you, you were writing your book, your children's book.
Yes. Yep.
You
Yep.
know, now you got an academy going,
Yeah.
and you're a dad.
Something is in the works. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Hmm.
Full-time husband, full-time dad,
You
trying to
know,
juggle it all.
so I heard you don't sleep. Yeah, I heard you don't sleep.
You know what? I have an aura ring. You ever heard of these rings where you can wear
Yeah.
and it tells me the truth. Like I was looking at it today and it was like, be careful. Because I only had 4 hours of sleep uh last
Wow.
night. So I was just like, oh man, so I'm glad it is tracking, but it try to, keep me on balance, if you will. So I got to get
Yeah.
back into it about 6 hours. Try to get about
Wow.
six
Wow.
hours.
And
So
you love data, so
I love
the
data.
Aura
Yeah.
Ring is perfect for you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
It is perfect for you. So your short men stands for managing emotions
Emotions naturally.
naturally,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
then it's gonna be amen. So it's gonna be an academy.
Academy for Men. Yeah. Academy for
Academy.
Managing Emotions Naturally. Yeah. And
I
this is
got
going to
it.
be
I
an
got it.
online platform. So it's a skill bridging and just the same stuff I can do face to face. I'm just going to convert it over to the
Hmm.
internet,
Got it. Oh, I
yeah.
love it.
Get real
Uh,
comfortable with Zoom. I'll tell you that much. So
there you go.
yeah. Yeah.
And you're active duty.
Active duty. I am
Hmm.
full-time active duty clinical social worker, mental health provider for the Air Force. Yep. So
Hmm. Which
working.
is one of the reasons why you are here today.
Okay. Look,
So officially, thank you for your service. I appreciate
appreciate
you
you.
so much. I'm
Thank you.
so thankful that I have you as a part of the Epic Understanding family, because you do provide insight to the world of as an active duty service member, but with your job, you really do understand the heart of people who are currently active duty because you get to
Definitely.
listen.
And being active duty myself and needing those resources myself. I
Hmm.
think as therapists, we really can't be, um, I mean, we can still be the best therapist we can be, but it does help to utilize the same services and be on the other
Hmm.
side for a change,
Hmm.
to get a better understanding of what it's like for others to see, into us as well and what we need, both mentally, spiritually. Yeah.
Hmm. Do you think that service men and women actually
Mhm.
know what they get, like what's available to them? Do you think they know that?
I mean, when you're talking about a brand new service member, probably not. I mean, you get inundated with so much information when you first get in. They come in and do the briefings. You're in this big room with all the other service members. You're new in, so everything is just you're so hype, right? And so
Hmm.
you really just want to come in and do a good job. So everybody's talking about selfless service and coming in, just really giving your time. So but when you have those moments where you're like, man, I'm under a lot of stress and
Hmm.
everything, to utilize your chain of command. You go to your leadership, and let them know how you're feeling, build a rapport with them, and then refer you to resources if need be, right? But off the rib, you will hear a lot of new people would be like, oh, I didn't know we had that, even though the briefing may have been done, but it's just when you're in it, you really think about the mission a lot. And
Okay.
it's just, people willing to serve. So I think new airmen, individuals who are not used to using the resources, they don't know it's there. Especially and we move around every 3 years. That's another thing too, right? We can
Right.
be overseas, we can be stateside. So there are certain resources you have here and in the community that you won't have in Korea,
Hmm.
so we definitely have to educate. It's a nonstop readiness component to this where we educate service members, everybody that comes in to the system. Yeah.
Is there a reason why you move around every 3 years? Why is that?
I have my own understanding of it, and I think it has a lot to do with innovation, ideas, not getting complacent, opportunities to grow as officers or as in military members in general. um, Culture plays a big
Okay.
role in it. It really opens your mind on how big the world really is. And when you talk to airmen, service members who do travel like that, they definitely have a different perspective. Not only about their mental health and what they need to really survive out there, because you're in a institution that's focused on selfless service. And so when you get to these other locations and you're moving around, you meet new people from all over, and it's
Hmm.
just me personally, I think that plays a significant role in it. The opportunity to see the military from a macro perspective.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I asked that question because I was watching a report
Hmm.
and it talked about the challenges with childcare
Mm,
and how that was weighing heavily on good soldiers.
mm, okay. Did
And
what kind of can you give a little bit more as far as the access? This is
there wasn't there wasn't childcare
hmm
um, around the military base for the for this particular family. Both of the parents were active duty.
military.
Uh,
Okay. Hmm.
uh-huh. And, and so that was affecting that was affecting them. And with the military, you always have to be on time. The nearest child care was a hour away.
Really, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it,
And the reality is, most military installations are in kind of isolated places. It's nice when they're not. I mean, like, Fort Sam, that's not before Seal, good God. Fort Polk, ah!
yeah, yeah. I haven't been at Fort Seal because that's in Oklahoma, correct? Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Fort Sam. I mean, we're here, so
I
it's
mean,
bus.
Wilford Hall, yay.
Yeah, and
Uh,
surprisingly, I've never been to base, both the Army and the Air Force. As I stated, my first 11 years was Army, little reserve as well as active duty, and then 13 years for Air Force. That every base I've been to, we've always had CDC child care,
Hmm.
and me having a little girl, that's and my wife and
Right.
I both being mill to mill, we've always had child care on base or things of that nature. So
Right.
but there is that you run a risk of, if it's being, too full. What do we have?
Right.
And then we have what we call FCC,
Hmm.
which are these families who are licensed to care for children in their home.
Hmm.
And they are placed on military orders to come to those bases, and it's usually it's the spouse, while the active duty member, does his job, her job out in the community. But
That's really good to know.
yeah, FCC is there, and then privatized childcare is there. So you really have three tiers. And then the last resort, or not last resort, but the fourth one will be a stay-at-home spouse. All right.
Hmm.
So I think they, I can't speak to being left out like that, and I feel sorry for that family. But I can assure you, everywhere we've been, when we before we even leave, we were calling for childcare and schooling and things of that nature, because that comes with both of us
It's
military. We have to stay.
right. It's a big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
but if you're at a base like Fort Lost in the Wood, Fort Leonard Wood,
Look at you. You got a couple of you got some military slogans, some base slogans there
yeah,
that you running
listen,
with there, huh? In the woods.
hey, that's what it's called.
Missouri. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah.
That's what it's called. But anyway,
That is all.
it's it it can be a challenge, and if we want our military to truly be focused,
Hmm.
I think that we have to think about those things. And we're definitely going to be talking about how veterans and and active duty members, how the family is affected, because the children of active duty,
Hmm. Hmm.
big deal.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it is a big deal. I've been thinking about this, and I actually think that when you have a person who's on active duty,
Hmm.
that part of the peace mission should be that if we could pull maybe kind of like a big brother, big sister kind of thing, but it is purposely designed where this civilian is connected to
Okay.
this family, and there's a level of sensitivity
Hmm.
um, there, and it's intentional. I do not think that we should be creating adverse childhood experiences for
Mm.
children
Yeah.
um, just because their parent
Hmm.
decided to serve our country.
I agree. Yeah.
I think that we should do a little bit different. All right.
Mm.
Um, I'll be getting back to you. I want to
Go ahead.
talk with April. Hello, April. How are you doing? Take yourself off mute, my dear.
Hello,
But
how are you today?
I'm awesome.
Yes,
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is all about mind, body, and soul. And you focus a great deal on the body. You were actually here with us last week. Thank you for
thank
coming
you.
back again.
Yes, yes. I love that experience. And first of all, I'd like to say Happy Veterans Day. I have siblings who are veterans, and my husband is a veteran. He's a retired Navy man.
Ah,
I have an uncle who served in the Army, retired from the Army, who was a paratrooper.
hmm.
So we have a long history of having veterans in my family and some who are still active duty. So happy Veterans Day.
Oh boy, yes, 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 yes. You know what? I love that you have it rolling through your family, and a beautiful husband that is a Navy man. All right,
Yeah, yes.
I love it. Um, Tell me, well, no, we really should say that you actually are a nurse for the VA, correct?
That is correct. I'm currently the wound care coordinator at our local VA in St. Louis.
Uh-huh.
The St. Louis Veteran Healthcare Administration. So that's what I currently do in the daytime is I
Mm-hmm.
serve veterans in that capacity as
Mm-hmm.
a registered nurse.
And what you have done for them and what you're doing for wound care is, well, quite honestly, I don't think it's any short of um, many miracles because some of the wounds are horrendous, correct?
Absolutely. And wound care is such a vast field because it affects patients who suffer from acute and chronic diseases. Of course, you have the whole spectrum of patients that could acquire a pressure injury while they're hospitalized.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the areas that is likely the most concerning is dealing with wounds that are hard to heal,
Mm-hmm.
mainly because you have veterans who have what they consider chronic healthcare conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, who have vascular disease that are very susceptible to attracting wounds, and even congestive heart failure can lead to patients having wounds to their lower extremities when they swell up and have edema. They get blisters, and sometimes those blisters erupt and they can result in open wounds. So, wound care is a vast field within hospitals in general, but in serving veterans because there's a huge population of veterans that suffer from chronic diseases, and wounds are a large part of providing their care within the veteran system.
Okay. So sometimes basically what I'm hearing is that veterans come to you with wounds, physical wounds, but sometimes they've gone too far just because of other healthcare conditions. Is that right?
In a general sense, I mean, wounds go through a spectrum of healing, and if those wounds don't uh, follow the proper wound healing cascade, they can become chronic wounds and hard to heal wounds.
Okay.
And from that point, and even from the beginning of a patient having a wound, wound care will be a big part of their care within the VA system.
Okay. Okay. Now you said with the PA system, what does that mean?
Within the Veterans Administration system, within
Oh,
caring for
within the VA
VA.
system. I
Yes,
see. I
sorry.
didn't hear you
There's a
correctly.
lot of acronyms you use in medical field, so I have to be careful.
You know what? I completely agree. It's the alphabet soup,
Yes,
you know, but that's the military for you and in the medical field. Put it all together. My God, you have a whole nother foreign language, right?
yes, that is absolutely correct.
You know, and one of the things that I am curious about, I'm curious what policy do you think that we could, or policy, procedure, or um, area focus, what could we do to help our veterans a bit more?
Oh, wow, our veteran community has is such a unique population to serve, mainly because with and one thing I love about the VA system is that you get to care for the whole patient and not just when the patient shows up in the medical uh, doctor's office or in the hospital, you're just going to treat their problem. A patient comes into the VA and you're going to treat their whole systems. They may be homeless or they may be suffering from some of the service connected um, issues that you hear about in the news, like Agent Orange, and most recently the burn pits that we've heard legislation has been approved from. So you have to kind of deal with the veteran from, first of all, their acute medical condition. And dealing with some of the issues related to some of their service connected issues. So you almost have a puzzle that you're trying to put together when you're treating veterans within the Veterans Healthcare Administration to make sure that you're meeting a spectrum of needs. So I would say that one of the areas that is most concerning to many veteran healthcare providers is making sure that we have sufficient access to care. I mean, just like the private medical sector, patients need insurance and they also need proper insurance. But within the veterans population is we want to make sure that we increase avenues for them to have access to care. And that may take place within the veteran healthcare facilities. And in a lot of cases, there's a lot of care that's provided in the community for our veterans. So being able to reach those veterans to help them understand all of those programs that are available so that you can reach more veterans and provide them with avenues to have more access to care. As recently, there's been discussion about veterans who are homeless. There's a large population of homeless veterans, and even being able to provide them with care when they're homeless. So I would say that placing policies and information in place so that veterans understand what they have access to and be able to deliver those systems to veterans.
Oh, you can't hear me. I apologize. I was saying that is wonderful. I was curious, do you believe that we are providing the care, that we actually have the care, but perhaps um, veterans don't know about it? Do you think that's the issue? Or do you think the issue is that we don't have the proper programs? Or perhaps both. Is it both?
I think there's a combination of issues that occur with providing care to veterans. I mean, it's similar to the private sector. I mean, you have veterans with very complex medical needs, and
Mm-hmm.
you have resource issues because veteran hospitals, medical doctors has to be funded by the
Mm-hmm.
federal government. So you have issues with funding, and you have certain areas in the country uh, that may not have facilities that are within the range of where the large number of veteran populations are at. So you're trying to create a system so that people understand, first of all, what programs are available and how they get access to those programs. And you're dealing with the current economic environment of uh, just uh, being able to fund those programs and being able to sustain them. So there's a lot of very complicated things that have to take place to be able to have veterans understand that and be able to explain that on a national level so that the funding continues to take place when there's changes in those political climates. You may have one spectrum that thinks there should be more funding or one that thinks there should be less. So it's a real complex problem.
You know what? You've said the word complex a few times, and I think, now that I'm listening to you, perhaps it's too complex. Perhaps the bureaucracy, because I have thought about, I really should have invited a couple more people on here today, because what you have to do in order to get your needs met and all those dang on forms you you have to do, you know sometimes we spend more money trying not to spend the money.
That is a good point. It is a very complex system, and the good part, I should say, is that when you have practitioners that understand the system and they're doing a better job when people are active duty to help them understand what services are available and how they get access to those services
Mm-hmm.
while they're active duty. So when they become retired and they start using the veterans system and other healthcare systems, they have more educated than they had in the past. So I think it's getting better,
Mm-hmm.
but also you have patients with with very complex issues. So there has to be a continuation of improvement and evolvement as we go.
I would have to say, I believe the vast majority of our veterans are honest and probably would not say that they had an injury that they did not have. It would be better and more a higher cost savings if we just said yes to some of the things that are concerning them versus making them go through their all this bureaucracy. I wish I had invited an administrator to the panel today. So,
And again, those discussions are way above my pay
well,
grade.
no, yes, like I really wish. Listen, I'm talking to me, and my mind is ticking. I was like, I gotta get an administrator
Yeah.
um, in here, and I want to know how these decisions are made and why are the because I feel that we're trying to protect ourselves um, in our pocketbook, but there's a phrase, and it is that you are tripping over dollars to pick up dimes. Okay.
But that is somewhat uh, it's complicated to explain it in that simplistic terms. But I do agree that the funding is an issue. But also within the medical system in general, it's just like the private sector. Whoever walks through the door gets care,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have to prove that they qualify for certain benefits or not. But for the most part, it's whether you have a service connected type of illness or not, you receive care within the system. But as far as who pays for it, I mean, even in the Veterans Health Administration, they use veterans that have other insurance. They use billing the same way they do in the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a system the same as the private sector in terms of individuals who walk through the door, they get their problems taken care of, and how that problem is managed. It goes through the the process of paperwork and determining further services that are needed. But everybody gets care
Hmm.
at a certain level.
I will tell you one of my favorite things about the way the VA currently operates is the community based outpatient clinics.
Yes.
I think those are superb, and I have just seen over the years how veterans have been served and they've been served swiftly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's improved over the years, and
Mhm.
many of those facilities are within 50 miles of where veterans receive care. So, again, it's about providing access and improving those services when veterans make a point of contact with those facilities. And, and as we were discussing last week, there is a team approach to care. So each time there is a problem that takes place, for example, if you have a need for a wound care nurse, there's a process for that. Or if they have a chronic condition, there's a team that they're receiving their care from. So it's a team approach.
I got it. You know, Dr. Lay, he's he's on his phone. It's like he's in class, right? But I have a question for him. I have a quick question. Dr. Lay,
Hmm.
what is your process, or do you know the process for educating people who are transitioning out of the military
Hmm.
to a retired status? How does that work? Do you know?
Yes, so from the Air Force side of the house, and I'm pretty sure it's across the board, but when an individual comes up on their time to retire, they can hit that punch that clock 12 months out, right?
Hmm.
During that time, they get involved in what we call TAPS, and the the complete name escapes me right now, but the acronym is TAPS, and basically they go through the 5 W's of reintegrating back into civilian life society, getting them connected with VA, getting their records, their medical records, and everything all in order.
Mhm.
Learning how to complete resumes, and giving them the tools to having a successful interview and things of that nature. And whatever the MOS was, how does it translate? MOS meaning whatever their job was in the military, how does it translate over to the civilian sector, and how to start pumping out those resumes, networking, and all of those good things. So they say it's a lot of resources. It's I forgot how many weeks it is, and I'm coming up on the retirement and all of that. So, um, but it's a couple of weeks long, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but nonetheless, all of the individuals who are coming out of retirement, they get all, they go through that whole process with TAPS. Once that's done, as far as getting service connected with the VA, all of that is happening at the same time. They have a case manager. That case manager communicates with the VA side of the case managers, and all of that networking is happening as well, just to make sure whatever care that they need, that they were having in the military, that it translate wherever they're going to move to, and get connected to the VA hospital there. So it is like a warm handoff that we have a system set up
Well,
um,
that's
for military.
that's good news. That's good news. I will talk more about that later, but for now, I have Jane, who is the sole portion of our program. Um, and tell us what it is that you do and what you really focus on and how you help people day to day.
Okay, well, thank you. That's a good question. Sometimes I wonder exactly what I do too. First, I want to tell you, it's interesting. I have a master's degree and a bachelor's degree in human development and family studies, and I worked with that for many, many years. And always, of course, the body was a big part of development. Mind, of course, was a big development, but the spiritual part was sort of left out, or the soul development. And I remember doing a seminar. Actually, it was in early childhood education, because I've taught that, worked with colleges and universities for most of my career.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought up the fact about spiritual development in the Waldorf method at a state conference. And all these teachers were floored, number one, that I would even bring it up. And they were so happy to hear it. And people, and especially when you get into academia, which I've spent my entire career in, um, don't really talk about it. So over the years, I became a master hypnotherapist, number one. And I also have a background in counseling. And I also have I've done a lot of work as an associate minister. I don't think that was ever that I ever note that anywhere, but in basically spiritual development. And what I tend to do a lot is to listen to people, because people don't listen to people. And it's been interesting to hear the other two speaking. And I'm sitting here going, oh yeah, my dad was a vet. He was actually in the Korean War. I have his
Okay.
jacket in my bedroom, and I'm thinking about the poppies when I brought home our poppy bush from where I grew up. So they bloom
Wow.
everywhere. So I think of that, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, I hope I don't have a major meltdown during this, um, because my father didn't talk about this.
Okay.
He actually saved a man's life in Korea. They remained good friends throughout their lifetimes. But I think the part of it was that people don't talk about their experiences. And
Mm.
and I was such a young child, it didn't even occur to me. But I think the part on emotional intelligence that's where I tap into. And probably my expertise is more in the area of personal development, soul development, of spiritual development. But we're very busy, which my father actually passed away in a VA hospital, which I'm very grateful for, but and was well taken care of. But the fact is, we didn't hear anything about the emotional intelligence, the awareness. I think it was more about self-survival. And
Oh.
what I do is I listen to people, both men and both women, about their own emotions and tap into those. I've just learned different ways of tapping into people because I am a humanist, number one. I read people very well and I listen to them, body language, what they're saying, what they're not saying, what they're feeling. And as doing hypnosis, hypnotherapy, what I call we do regression hypnosis, where we can actually take people back through time into their subconscious and deal with some of the issues that they have never dealt with. I remember when I went to college, uh, men were coming back from Vietnam in various forms, which they wouldn't talk about, of course. And
Mhm.
I was so young, I really didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know. And as I listened to you all talk tonight, I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed a whole lot. Even though I've worked with VA hospitals, and we have Fort Ben here in Indianapolis, which was Fort Ben. But we a lot of it's just about getting people to talk about their feelings or what they will talk about, and it's to listen and to tap into that emotional intelligence, which of course leads into that spiritual intelligence, and that's what I kind of combine, and it's kind of a fine art actually. It's not a very black and white way. It's not very concrete at all, but it's about tapping into their emotions and feelings and having people to talk about it. It's a challenge.
You you have said some dangerous words here. I want to highlight something.
Okay.
Most of our military are men, and you have said a sentence that I think often scares men more than bullets. Talk about it.
Oh, that's right. That is correct.
Wait a minute, how's it go? I think we need to talk.
Yeah. Right. And my father, he's a great example, and his two brothers. He had two brothers, both in service. No, we do not talk about feelings and emotions. I had
Right,
three
and then you
brothers.
keep dropping the F bomb, which is feelings.
Right, three.
That's dangerous.
It is. Then I have three brothers to boot, and here's my mother, and me. So I didn't really have very good male role models. And it was a very different time. It was very authoritarian as well. And here was my dad in the army and his brothers, and of course we bring in religious beliefs. And I know we're talking about soul, but you're right. Religion. You have to know where people are coming from. I grew up in a very Catholic environment. There's some people who are very Lutheran environment or Baptist or whatever it is. We have to go to where they are. But you're right. Feelings is just a word that is what does that mean?
I mean, literally, you've just. I think you dropped the F bomb. You cursed him out with telling him that you wanted to talk about it. I mean, what
That's
is
right.
this you're saying? This is awful. I feel like we need new language to draw veterans in and men in to express themselves, um, being emotionally responsible, being equipped, um, uh, with your intelligence. Something, I'm not saying I have the right language right off the top of my head, but as I listen to you, my ears, my male sensitivity was going, warning, warning. I
Yeah,
felt I felt men's ears turning off.
that's right. But I know a lot of men who come to me and go, these women, and I'm like, oh yeah, women, they're terrible. Making
Right,
really taking
right.
advantage of you, and that's
Dr.
really
Ray is backstage cracking up. I'm going to bring him up real quick and see what he has to say. What are your thoughts on this, sir?
Now I'm laughing at James and he's like these women.
I know it. That's what
I'm
men
like,
come to me, and they're really super
yeah,
amazing, wonderful men.
yeah. When you speak about the emotional intelligence and why I took a bit interest in that was, just kind of looking at what I've struggled with myself. And
Okay.
it wasn't so much being in the military. I think it's more of a cultural thing.
I think you're right.
where we are defined. When I say we, I mean men are defined by their actions, their ability to build or create or protect, or all these kind of things we put on our shoulders. So we've learned to live by action, but now, I mean, there is a cultural shift. I'm Generation X. I can totally see it. I can see it a little bit with millennials, but I think millennials are still kind of Generation X. The later millennials, but that the Z generation or Y generation, maybe I don't even the 19 to 27 ish, they have a different scope on life and perspective, and so I think culturally we are making that shift. And what I'm seeing just in my work with young men, they definitely have more data than I did, growing up. They just have access to things that make me stay sharp, whether it's through media or reading. I definitely increased my library, but the main thing we focus on is emotional responsibility, versus emotional regulation, which is something I'm gearing towards women. The focus on women in that aspect, but in the emotional responsibility, we do teach them to respect their feelings and not give them power, and that's just not being able to act on those emotions, especially when they're negative or they're triggering. But we teach them to process it.
I
So it's
I
a
think
yeah.
honestly,
Hmm.
when you can't talk about it, you end up in April's office. April, take
Right.
yourself, yeah, take yourself off mute for me, April, because I think some of the wounds that April sees are due to a lack of spiritual and emotional intelligence. April, you are on mute. Please take yourself off mute, dear.
Yes, and the thing that I picked up on with Jane was what she said about her daddy didn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
With the
Right.
veteran population, it is uh, so unique where sometimes being able to provide them with the care is them being able to trust you and develop a relationship with them to where you can help them get the health care that they need. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of veterans that suffer from PTSD, and it doesn't necessarily mean because you were in combat that you have PTSD. It could be different traumas that you experience as a result of being in the military with the conflicts that you have to be involved with. Some people may have different issues. Veterans are people too in terms of their personal beliefs, but because you have that, you take that pledge and that oath to serve, you have to do your job. So whether you're in the Navy, the Army, a lot of veterans suffer from PTSD, and as a nurse providing care for those veterans, you have to approach it so delicately because they have to be able to trust you. And part of the healing wounds is having the patient be compliant with the therapy and the treatments. So being able to develop those relationships at the first point of contact with the veteran is very important. So it is, and it's a unique thing that everyone who becomes a nurse or a medical provider for the VA or Veterans Administration is not a good fit.
Okay.
So you have to have a very keen understanding of that patient population. And the other thing that I thought about was technology. There is so much technology being used in healthcare right now that helps to increase access. You have telehealth, especially with COVID. And the nice thing about the VA system is they are leaders. They're leaders in so many different things in healthcare. When you talk about people with spinal cord injuries or even wound care, they use some of the latest technology in terms of treating patients, increasing access to care. The VA system was one of the first systems that used electronic patient charting, and it was developed from the Department of Defense. So there's a lot of technology that's used in healthcare.
So I am curious, Jane, because I really see what you do and what April that does. Actually, it's all three. It's all tied together, but I'm I'm seeing that could hypnosis help some of the physical injuries, help with some of those things?
It's interesting. Hypnosis is, what we use to go to for the therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And, we go through, and what we do is we go to the subconscious. It can work. It does work if we allow it to. I'm telling you, I've seen some emotional and physical healings as a
Mm-hmm.
result of utilizing hypnosis through hypnotherapy if people are ready. Certainly if people aren't ready, but seen a lot of soul work, a lot of soul healing, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of clarity. Because I spend a lot of time, just like Dr. Lay does and April does, we build relationships. And sometimes I know people ahead of time, but I've seen people actually clear wounds up, emotional wounds, spiritual wounds, all kinds of things, and they walk out as like a new person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when we do regression hypnosis. Sometimes people say, well, I don't know where this is coming from. And what I tell them is it doesn't really matter where it's as long as it works. And that's what, I certainly have been taught. A lot of it's beliefs growing up. Some of it's not only just the trauma from being in going through maybe PSTD, but maybe they had PSTD as a child or other things. Sometimes it's just a roll up, I'm telling you, of everything that they've either heard, brought with them. And all I know is it works. It's not anything you can put in a box. And I've seen people's emotions, men and women, just really clear out, and they would look to like a totally different person when they left and would come back later. Like they really lightened up, and their souls, like they say, they're free, they're emotional, their spirit. It's more of a spiritual where they can learn to trust their spiritual intelligence, their intuition, to go into meditation and or listen and trust what they hear. And that's a little different than prayer. Prayer is for asking. Believe me, I'm a good asker, but it's always a little more difficult for all of us to sit and listen. And because we do have all this clutter going on in our head, sometimes that's hard to do. But what I found is it really helps clear out people so that they can hear themselves more clearly, whatever that divine or soul part of them is. And people call it different things, and whatever that is. Some people where I grew up are still really like they are still very Catholic the way I grew up. I've broadened over the years. I embrace all spiritualities and thought and soul, and I go to where the person is, as you all do. But it's all I know is it works, and it just subconscious. Basically you're rewiring your mind. You're rewiring, how you think. What was it becomes null and void. Sometimes, of course, it takes more than 2 or 3 sessions for some things, but it becomes null and void, and then people can say, oh, and then they can open up to do other things they want to do. But there's a lot of trauma, whether you're in service or not. I mean, everybody has some sort of trauma that we've gone through or something we've had to overcome. So I've worked with people in all arenas, and it works. That's all I know is it works. We go back to the time. Sometimes they get stuff from who knows where. You know what? As long as it works and clears, that's what's important.
Jane, can you tell us exactly what is spiritual intelligence? And then Dr. Lay, as soon as she gets done, I want you to talk about how that might work with what it is that you do.
Wow, Erica, you're really making us think.
Yeah.
Basically, spiritual intelligence builds on emotional intelligence, which is really interesting. Spiritual intelligence is basically using, I'm just going to use like words like faith, belief, intuition, being thankful, the intelligence, how to use, what your belief system is, the meditation, the prayer, even a walk. That's spirituality. That's spiritual intelligence. It takes me a walk mile down and walk mile back, and I'm like, I'm at one. Um, Also, people say, well, what does spiritual really mean? In fact, I did a class for my community college this morning, early childhood students. We mentioned early childhood earlier. I said, well, basically, I don't know why it came up even, but it's like the relationship you have with yourself, others, and the world. And that's pretty broad, but that's what Bernie Siegel said, who wrote Love, Medicine, and Miracles, Body, Mind, Spirit, Soul, tying it all together. Grace, accepting the fact that there's grace, there's always room for more growth, and to be joyful, and just knowing we're going to be trusting, and that we can trust, and that we are going to be taken care of. Now, it's a lot to go through for some people. I mean, I've worked with a lot of young women lately, believe it or not, who've had addictions, severe addictions. I don't know how they get out of that, but they are doing it. And that's just that spiritual belief. It's that strong spiritual intelligence, that knowing there's something higher or around them or in them, or however you choose to look at it. And it's finally getting to that part that builds on top of that emotional intelligence, that the amen. I love that shirt. I really want one. I want the AF before mine. So, or
So when you get the new version,
yeah,
when you get the new version, Dr. Lay, she's signing up. She wants her shirt.
Extra large, because I sleep in them. I want to sleep in them.
Well, I will say this. For a long time, people were saying that emotional intelligence was the thing that employers were looking for. And I'm now starting to hear this whisper that in order to have emotional intelligence, you must have a high level of spiritual intelligence. Dr. Lay, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking about that as Jane was talking, and I think for us, when we talk about emotional intelligence, it was something interesting I learned, the difference between EQ and IQ, and that individuals who have a high level of intelligence, right, very smart, who but they individuals who had a low versus individuals who had a low level of intelligence. IQ, but had a high level of EQ, had
Mhm.
better connections, had better relationships with people. They learned they were better leaders in the
Mhm.
workplace. And I think it has a lot to do with um, having that self awareness for one. You got to be able to recognize your triggers and emotions, right? When I talk to people about this, and it does trigger people a lot, and I talk about the ownership, the accountability piece. It's We often hear this term. It's not about what happens to you; it's how you respond.
Mhm.
That's self awareness, right?
Wait a minute. Who said this? It's not how hard you can hit, but how hard you can get hit. Is that Rocky? That's, yeah, that's
How does it go again? Wait,
Sylvester Stallone, which is kind of like
Oh,
what you said.
I never heard it, and I never heard that one.
me
But
neither, but I
the
love
thing,
him. I love those
yeah,
movies.
I would think it would sound, yeah. It's not about how hard you can hit, but how hard you
You
can
can get hit. How
and
hard you
get back
can
up,
get
or
hit
something
and
like
get
that.
back up. Yeah.
That's kind of what, yeah, because the accountability piece is about you recognizing, why am I reacting that way? If me and Coach Love literally had the same experience, somebody did something and I reacted or responded a certain way, I'm looking at Coach Love and like, why didn't she respond that way? And it may be because Coach Love don't have that button, you know, doesn't it doesn't trigger her like it triggers me. I gotta have awareness of that. Coach Love would tell me, yo, it's not that big of a deal. Chill out. To me, though, it is. The relationship management piece, Coach Love would say, you know what? I understand why he feels that way based off of what he experienced back when he was
Mhm.
8. I get it. Why he, so she wouldn't tell me then, yo, chill. She would understand, right? So that self-awareness is good. I mean, big piece. The self-management, like you stated, going for a walk. This is where the spiritual piece come in at. Because when we talk to our guys about self-management, we like, do what you know, not what you feel. And basically we say, you should be going for a walk, you should be going for a run, even though you don't feel like it. We get that, and so that piece to me is the spirit, that spiritual piece as well. It's like committing or submitting to something of a higher to elevate you to that next level. And emotional intelligence really speaks to that. It's saying, I am actually a part of something bigger than me. So I have to be able to submit, and I have to be able to make certain sacrifices in order for my intelligence, my EQ to rise. And so I think from the spiritual side of the house, we think of that self-management piece and the self-awareness piece, for individuals, because it keeps the accountability on them. They have to look from within. So to me, that's where, spirituality comes into play.
April, I'm curious. Do you think we can choose the way we feel about something? I keep the
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's about empathy. You can
Mm,
always relate to from your own personal experiences, and even being in the field of nursing, you have so many different complex problems that you're helping a patient with, and you can always empathize. I remember the phrase, and don't quote me on who said it. I want to say Maya Angelou might have said it a
mhm,
little way, or Carol Birchner, but
mhm.
it says that people will remember the things you say, the things you do, but they rarely forget how you made them feel. So being in the healthcare part of it, having empathy helps you calm a person down. You have patients that may be anxious, or even we talked about PTSD, where they may be a little agitated, and being able to just come in and say, "Hey, how are you doing? I care." It really puts a different uh, atmosphere, and you're able to provide better care for that patient at that point in time. So it's about empathy, um, and it is widely needed uh, in healthcare, because a lot of times people are just busy, they're worn out, they have so many different responsibilities, and even healthcare providers may have PTSD, because a lot of the workers at the VA are veterans, so they have some of those same issues. So
So,
having that empathy helps.
okay, so if we can control how we feel, then what is with this idea of PTSD? Because personally, I understand that we can have post-traumatic stress syndrome, and you don't have to go to war to have that, right?
Absolutely. It can be trauma, but it's also mental illness. And being able to understand mental illness is a whole complex uh, situation that I'm definitely not qualified for, but it is mental illness. And some people may not be able to come out of it or be able to break the cycle. And it could be mental illness, and they're in an acute phase of it. So there's no talking them down. I mean, there's no spin that you can put on it, because the person is intent to do whatever they're gonna do. So definitely being able to have, first of all, the education to deal with it, and being able to have different techniques that you use with that individual. But again, I think it all comes back to, first of all, being a professional, having emotional intelligence, and not taking it personal, and the empathy piece of it.
Mm. So when you were talking and you were quoting Maya Angelou, I was thinking of the song by Mary Mary. I cried my last tear yesterday. Okay. Now that, it's a bluesy old song,
Mhm.
but in that, the woman is taking ownership of her feelings. She's taking the control back. And I'm wondering, is it a high spiritual intelligence and emotional intelligence that equips a person to do that. Because Dr. Lay said, well, Coach Love might not have that button, but maybe Coach Love has that button. She just turned it off. Like, yes, like I say, yes, I understand you're being offensive, but I'm not offended. Or perhaps even, yes, I find you offensive and I am offended, but this is what it looks like when I'm offended by what you're doing. It's like,
And no, you're spot on, Coach Love, because but that's what it goes back to the self awareness. You actually know your trigger, so you literally desensitized it. Like you're aware of it, so you
mm-hmm,
don't react or respond in a way that may be unhealthy.
mm-hmm,
Compared to me not knowing and having that awareness, I may jump and you will have to contain me, because you're like, so yeah, you're absolutely right. You may have that button, but you actually are aware of it. And that's powerful. That shows that you have that self-discipline, that self-control. When I went to boot camp, and I don't even know if I can well, no, because it's been over 20 years. That when I went to boot camp and I got kicked in my rib, and back
mm-hmm.
then it was like steel toe jump boots they were wearing, right?
Ooh.
But I was cheating. I wasn't doing my push-ups. We were getting smoked, and it was a bunch of us, so I didn't think they could see me. So I'm on the side, and he came up behind me, and I don't even know if he meant to kick me there, but just more so, hey, get up, be with your team, don't let your team down. Would you do that in the field of battle, kind of thing? But when he kicked me, I remember, just wanting to get up and react in a way that would have got me in more trouble. But I held myself, you know, still felt some kind of way about that, but I held myself from actually reacting in such a way that was going to make matters worse. That
Mm-hmm,
was a sign. That was me demonstrating my awareness there, having that awareness with that situation, right?
mm-hmm,
But we do this every day, and it's a skill that has to be practiced every day when it comes to self-awareness and things of that nature. So you're right, Coach Love, that yeah, you may have that button, you're absolutely right, but the fact that you can control it, the fact that you say, I'm not going to give it power, I'm gonna go this route with it,
mm-hmm,
you made your life that much better. You know what I mean? And so that's something I would have to learn from you. Like, yo, that didn't piss you off. I'm like, yeah, it got under me, but I'm not responding in that way. So better outcomes for people like yourself in in that situation. So yeah, you're right.
mm-hmm. Jane, what are your thoughts in this matter?
Well, I most certainly agree about the self awareness, but I also know that sometimes things build up so high and we push things away so long that we just totally were gone. And even myself, and I'm really always conscious and aware, but you know what? Sometimes enough's enough. And, we research is showing that we actually have emotions and feelings embedded in our body. And
Mm-hmm,
that's where a lot of our illnesses come in. And that's what, when April was talking about it, we talk about that's when we get into the hypnosis part. I actually go in and people are actually able to tell me where their shadowy gray feelings are embedded. That's what we
mm-hmm,
in their body. And what I do a lot of time is I do a lot of clearing, emotional clearing. Um, once again, we're at the subconscious level where, it works. But I also go in and I have people think of a symbol. What's a symbol for you that you can place there in that part of the body? That's a very, that would be a safe spot for you. So let's say, like, I like to use the infinity symbol, like, because mainly because I like
Oh, I love that symbol. I
I know.
love
So
it.
that whenever I feel stressed and I need to go someplace safe, I go into my heart chakra or my heart area and put my infinity symbol. So I don't obviously I can't do medical, but I can use the word chakras. I can use energy fields. I just go wherever the person is, whatever they believe, what their belief system is. That's what I do. But that way, people, if they can get to that point for safety, they can go there. But in the meantime, what we're doing is because they are aware, and if they can't, they can go inward. But hopefully, what we do is we clear out a lot of those stuck feelings and emotions, and people can actually tell me. I'm always like amazed myself, but I can feel it moving. I can feel the energy moving out. I can see it moving out. They can tell me when it's gone. And sometimes when they come out of sessions, they're like, oh my gosh, I look 10 years younger. They're lighter, they're better. It's like this stuff they knew it happened, but it was just like a memory, but that was it.
Hmm.
And they don't feel it.
So
So
I'm
it's pretty
wondering about what
powerful.
you said. I'm wondering about what you said, and I want to ask April, because I don't take people's head off when they're being offensive. You know, am I hurt? Am I going to get an ulcer? Or I mean,
Wow,
is
that's
that right? Is this what happens to some of our veterans because they are taught to be strong? You know, bury everything.
well, what I can say is from a medical perspective, there has been a lot of evidence that talks about stress is a cause of a lot of inflammation in the
Okay.
body and a lot of disease and uh, physiology, pathophysiology of disease is triggered by inflammation and the
Mm-hmm.
body's ability to process that inflammation in the body will trigger certain diseases process or will prolong certain processes to take place with diseases. Uh, for example, if anyone who's had chickenpox has the virus that's still in their body and it can trigger with different stresses to cause shingles. I mean, this is evidence based. You can look at the science.
Right.
The medical person is here talking about science. Um, and the when you have inflammation, you can get diseases. You can get ulcers. You can get your diseases can become. You can get stroke. You can it can cause your hypertension to be out of control. So I would say yes. You know, when you do have more inflammation in the body, you can trigger more diseases to either occur or get worse.
Hmm. I'm just trying to figure out where is the balance? Do I have to? I am that person. I can be highly bothered or concerned or, um, maybe even offended or frustrated by your behavior, but I'm just like, uh huh, okay.
I think one of the things that's important, and there has been a lot of discussion about this in the corporate and medical community, is self care.
Mm-hmm.
And self care can come in a number of ways. I know a lot of people talk about massages and yoga and meditation. And when you're thinking about how you process a situation or a problem, and if your outcome as to how you deal with that is you're either going to give the person a pass or you're going to not react to it in a certain way, that can be a form of self care. Is
Do
being
veterans
able to
have
manage your
access
emotions.
to, from as a, you work for the VA, do veterans have access to um, outlets that help them not be reactive, so not get their, not be so reactive to certain buttons, but at the same time have an outlet them for, I guess, is it meditation? Is it massages? The things that help people process their PTSD. And I'm asking these questions because there is so much homelessness with veterans. There is so much suicide with veterans. I feel perplexed in, I feel that we have an issue that we are not connecting to the dots. Are they not getting to the resources? Are the resources not there? Do they not understand the resources? I'm like, what is it?
Oh wow, that's a great question. And the VA has done so much outreach to increase those programs. There's My Healthy Vet, there's a Million Veterans program involved, and even here in our own community, There's access to a pool, a gym. There's a program called Whole Health that does include alternative medicine such as yoga, aromatherapy, acupuncture, and veterans have access to those therapies that's directed by their physician. Alternative medicine has a role
Mm,
in medicine. There is currently so much research about the benefits of alternative medicine uh, that is in the form of different things. And I'm going to say, as a female, women go through menopause. So there's some herbal methods, some vitamins that are used. And the caveat, what you're going to hear from the medical community is they want to see the evidence, the research that's done behind it. Now, of course, there's not as much research done on alternative medicine as there is on traditional medicine research. But it does have a place in medicine, and veterans have access to those services here in St. Louis and at the VAs across the country. And most of the time, a lot of people just don't know that it's there. But I would say here at our VA, and maybe Dr. Lake can attest to it, that there's a lot of information that's given to our veterans that they can take advantage of those services. And I would just say, I'm just put a shameless plug in. The St. Louis VA has been approved for a huge expansion. I believe the number that I heard is in the billion range.
whoa.
Number that's going to take place downtown St. Louis. So it's going to be a huge expansion that they're going to increase beds, they're going to increase access. It's going to remap that whole midtown area down the street from the Fox Museum.
Wow. That's
So that
That's
was
awesome.
amazing.
win for the St. Louis area. And I believe some of those therapies are going to be available right here in St. Louis.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. That's huge. That's
Yes.
huge. Dr. Lay, I'm going to put you on the spot. I got some questions for you, sir.
Yeah.
Wait, no, no, no. I got
Oh, okay. I
specific
thought it was in
questions.
response to. Okay, go ahead.
Specific questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, if a veteran, if a military soldier or airman, if they did not know, like if they did not know how to work their gun, what would happen?
If they didn't know how to work it,
Like if they didn't know the inner workings of their gun, what would happen?
well, they would go through training.
Uh-huh. They
Uh,
would go through they would go through training.
right.
And are they quizzed on this?
So, I mean, it's hands-on, right? So it's loading a weapon, it's taking it apart, it's putting it back together, it's learning how to clean it, learning how to aim it, shoot it. You pretty much, depending on your career field, there's
Mhm.
some jobs where you pretty much your weapon is it's like
Right?
your what do y'all call like your purse. It's
Right,
that
yeah.
intimate, right? But nonetheless, yeah, it's training after training becomes repetition. I was infantry still to this day. Yeah, I can definitely take apart my weapon. It's just muscle memory. I've done it for so long.
Mhm.
You know, but uh, but the training will be in there. Remedial training. If they just can't get it, then I'm thinking they're going to be looking at alternative. Like, hey, we're going to have to stand him down from even arming up again because he's just
Mhm.
not getting it or she's just not getting it, right? So, but
Mhm.
yeah. Hmm.
I asked that question because if there was something that was fundamental to the service member's job,
Right.
that then the service would make them do it over and over again. It would be part of their training. That's just what they would do, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel as if the overall mental health care should be in that training at that level,
Yeah.
like
Oh, I agree.
over and over and over again.
So there's a level of autonomy with mental health, right? To whereas members come in willingly to seek help, right? And it's really having that. And granted, the resources are all there. But one of the things I do want to plug in at this time is that when we talk about the military and it being an institution, if somebody did 20 years, that's 20 years of selfless. That means 20 years of thinking about other people. It's almost like shell shock for that to leave that and now say, let us take care of you.
But
There's
I
only
don't think that it should be taking, let us take care of you. I think that it's part of their responsibility to take care of themselves.
I'm sorry, that's what I mean. I'm sorry. Yes, in a nutshell, that's what I'm saying. Like now they have to put the emphasis on them. And for 20 years in a lifestyle that wasn't just when they were at work, is even when they're off duty. I'm talking about if they're living the creed of their, that
Mhm,
now I have to focus on me. Is that I don't think that's any different than I met people who are really good relationship people. They love
mhm.
taking care of people. And it's like when you say, "Hey, what have you done for yourself?" It almost feels guilty, like they're like they're robbing. Like I don't know, like eh, they feel guilty taking care of themselves. Like that's a
Well,
problem for them. And I
I,
kind of look at that with veterans. Like I don't know how to take care of myself. I've never done it. I've always suppressed it. And so, it's weird. It's almost like you make that sacrifice and then it's all over. They don't need you for that no more. And it's like, how do I deal with that? You know?
I'm with you.
All
This
right.
is my
Mhm.
issue with what you're saying, though.
Okay.
You're comparing a lay person to a skilled and treasured member of the military, and it's just the difference. And what I mean by that,
Mhm.
um, you can't be overweight. The average person can be overweight. You have to keep yourself in a certain condition because it's part
Mhm. Yep.
of the training. It's just the way it works.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm just wondering why we don't have that level of focus
Mhm.
towards mental health,
So
towards
active duty
spiritual intelligence.
active duty we do. We have our safety stand downs, we have our mental health awareness, and each clinic, or let me just speak with the Air Force here. Each commander is responsible for employing that level of knowledge to their teams. And so there's curriculums. We have training day every single week on a
Hmm.
Wednesday, and it literally covers all of these different things, right? Combat stress, we call it combat stress, but it's pretty much the same thing. You're still talking about things of emotional intelligence, self-awareness, relationship awareness, things of that nature. So it's there. It's just now it's becoming more prevalent. They're realizing, okay, prevention is very important. We are a reaction type force, meaning something bad has to happen. Then we know how to fix it. Prevention, that means pouring in is like, well, this could happen. So you have to allocate for funds for that, right? They got to believe, is this likely to happen? So they have to do a significant amount of research to determine if we don't get ahead of this in 2023, this is what it's going to look like in 2030. Oh, okay. Let's go ahead and pump money in there. Now we got these other resources. That's how the military kind of operates. So I can truly say now, and for some time, we've had so many resources because 9/11 and just being at war that long, it really opened the door to so many. We were like, what the heck? Now we got social media that can expose a lot of it.
Hmm.
It's now came, we had to respond vigorously, really. So we
Hmm.
do have all of these different resources, but I think it comes down to the individual saying, aware that I'm suppressing. What I suppress comes out in the behavior. The behavior is negative. You know what? Before it costs lives, let me go see mental health and their prevention services. Let me tell my commander. Let me do something on my own, the management accountability side. So it's like more of that is happening, and that's the safe space, if you will. And so they call it help seeking behavior initiative. And that's what you see the cultural shift happen. That's why I say the millennials in them, they got it pretty, it's like ingrained in them. For us, Generation X on our way out, we like, this is still new. So at the
Got it.
VA,
Oh,
I'm gonna
that's
let you
good.
know, April. There's more
So I'm
coming
happy
your
that
way.
there's a
Yeah.
change. So I want to go to Jane. What, since the Generation X is on their way out, but Generation Z, they're just like, hey, this is the way it flows. What would you tell Generation X to do to bridge that gap?
Well, that's a good question because I see this in my practice and my work all the time. You know, the millennials, the X's, and then what's below them, and just expectation levels. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm all of them, you know, and I'm not any of them. But I just kind of listen. But I want to make a comment to Dr. Lay first. I am so shocked and amazed what you're all doing, all the programs and classes. If academia and the business world did everything you did, oh my gosh, it'd be a whole different world. And I've lived through both of them, sort of. Um, but I think I'm not sure. I think I would look at the person because I've got some really good millennial friends who thinks they're baby boomers, honestly, and they think that I think I'm a millennial, and I think I am, honestly. So, but what we do is we look at each of the people and go to where they're at. And I always, I don't always need to know age because frankly, I read souls. I really do. But sometimes I will have to say, can I ask how old you are? Because that would give me a better idea. Because some people are I'm telling you, they're such old souls
Mm.
that I cannot tell. Yeah, I don't know what generation they are at all. And so I get at it that way. I go to the soul level and talk to them. But then when they start talking about other things, I know it's got to be a generation. I'll go, how old are you? And it's really funny. But we just have a great, it's a great camaraderie. We just really work together on that. So I guess I'm not sure if that really answers your question because as long as I've been in academia, we've always had the different levels of, ages and where people are. And I just go right to their souls. And that's how I work with them all. And because people will say, how do you know that? I'm like, I don't know. I just tell them that. But, you just learn to read people because of, that's what my degrees were in: psych, mental health, human development. And we learn all that. And then you build upon it over the years and you just get better at it.
Mm.
So it's, again, I guess I just, Coach Love, I'm reading your soul.
And what does my soul say?
You're an old soul. You're an old soul. Oh my gosh, you wouldn't be here doing this program right now without it. I guarantee you. So,
Family, my soul has wrinkles. There's love in every one of them.
wrinkles where? I don't see any. Get a great esthetician. It does great wonders. I'm telling you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know what? One of the things I'm excited about is what each of you guys are doing individually with your businesses. And if you can just tell us a little bit about them, that would be wonderful. I'm going to get April up here for a minute so she can just tell us. She has a very exciting news. April, you're doing so much. Tell us what you're doing with your business.
Oh, yes. Well, I started up for a nonprofit and I'm still finalizing my name. I've got two of them. One is in Powerful Healthcare, and the other one is, can't even think of it. But the good news is I want to focus on providing healthcare solutions from heart to heels. And we talked about me being a wound care nurse. I'm the most qualified African American wound care nurse here in the St. Louis metropolitan area because I'm the only one that's African American. And I'm looking to reach so many people to help them to heal their chronic wounds and also provide healthcare solutions for the community. One thing that I have, and I'm going to say that saddens me, is that you have people with all this access to healthcare, but yet and still they don't get the help that they need to get better. So what I want to do is bridge the gap in the community. I want to provide healthcare solutions from assisting parents with immunizations and getting their kids up to date with those, providing solutions for high schools with the opioid epidemic. I have a seminar that's going to take place at the end of the month with the St. Louis DEA here in St. Louis. It's called the One Pill Can Kill program, and it's assisting high school kids to understand the dangers of fentanyl. So I have so many exciting things, and I just say the CN community means bringing the services that people need to get the help that they need to improve their healthcare outcomes. So I'm really excited about it, and I hope to have things prepared to participate in Giving Tuesday so that people can support me to bring these healthcare solutions to the community.
I'm really excited about the fact that your business is in the embryonic stage and we are getting to see you craft everything and put it all together. But what I love even more is that you are taking the heart and soul of what you've been able to do for veterans for years right into the community. And as you say, heal them from heart to heels. I think that is magnificent, very much needed, very much needed. Dr. Lay, Mr. A-Man.
I love that.
Yeah, I wish I should have kept that to myself. Look, I hope nobody.
Why?
No,
Why?
no,
I want
no,
the shirt too.
I should have told y'all on in the green room. But
Oh, got it.
it's
Well, I mean,
already.
but
I,
we're putting it out there. This is a place. So, family.
hmm,
What I love about this show is that we grow and expand together. We've seen things be a very small, and then watch people grow and grow big, bigger and affect the community in really significant ways. I rattled off some of those projects that you've completed since you've been hanging out with us.
I
So
know it's been a lot. It's
don't be
definitely been
trying
a
to
lot.
keep secrets from the family.
No, 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 definitely not. They're so intimate to me. It's like, I don't want nobody to hack them up, but I know that they're still in the process. But my main goal for my initiative is to create a new universal language for men. And it starts with empathy, it starts with emotional intelligence, and those being the norms, the new
Mhm,
norms as to how we build healthy relationships with our partners, healthy relationships with people, healthy relationships with each other. And so my program is really geared towards that. And I realize I have to be able to attack at every level, whether it's micro and that's working with children, which is why I started writing the children's books and things of that nature, but I'm going to do even more with that. That's going to grow. And working with young men, working with older men as well. I heard something, and Coach Love, it may have been on your show, but I heard something that was so key, and it just stopped me in my tracks. It was they said we focus on making the world safe for children. What we should be doing is focusing on children, making the children better for the world,
mm,
that they're going to enter, and that
mhm,
really stopped me in my tracks. And I may have even hacked that up, but it stopped me in my tracks like, oh my God, you're absolutely right. We should
mhm,
be making this a universal language at the lowest level. So by the time they get to my age, they're not struggling with it. It's so norm to them, you know.
mhm,
And I think with that foundation and having those healthy boundaries, having that level of awareness for self, you're going to see more competent men, more competent young men, more competent boys um, in our society, and we can get back to creating and being as innovative, and really being charged with living out our purpose. But it starts
mhm.
with us. We really got to keep that accountability on us. So that's the overall mission for men. For this program.
One of the things I love that you are doing and I want to see more of is developing language for men to talk about,
Exactly. Yeah.
um, their inner workings. I really don't want to drop the F bomb of feelings. But what
Yeah.
what can we what language can men respond to, other than saying feelings?
Yeah, yeah.
What
And
what can we say?
I mean, when we talk about emotion, well, we talk about um there's a slogan I have with my webpage where it says emotional accountability is your responsibility, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's helping men to recognize, like, again, it starts with them. So I think the accountability piece it covers, it's the umbrella, right? and
Mm-hmm.
and and you know what, men are, hmm, I want men are going to get used to, or they have been, or they're doing the work in really taking in with their feelings. It's just we have to be emotionally responsible about it. We can't, we're still not at that level where it's just expressive, because it does look unorganized. It does look like they're not as stable, if you will. It can look aggressive to some people when we get to
Mm-hmm.
expressing our emotions. We really got to learn to process our emotions. And so that comes with a level of emotional responsibility. So if you was to say to a guy, you really have to be more emotionally responsible. Men
Mm-hmm.
understand those words,
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. They understand that, they get it.
Mm-hmm.
And that level of understanding, when we talk about understanding in the group, we talk about your cerebral
Mm-hmm.
versus your etho understanding. Cerebral being more logical, right? You can see statistics, you can say certain vocabulary, certain definitions, all good. Okay, that makes sense. But then on the ethos side is where we want them to get to, where it is spiritual. It's ingrained now. Now it's a part of their lifestyle. They can't even turn it off if they wanted to. That's the part we want them to get to whereas it's not something that's so logical. So when I hear people say, I don't understand, let's say men, I don't understand why men do this or whatever have you, they're thinking more cerebral. It's more logical to them. Why isn't it not making sense? Well, it's getting to this part when you start looking at them, it's like that look gives me, I understand where he's coming from, what he's doing. And he has to be able to be comfortable with that as well. And I wanted to get to the ethos level. I wanted to get to the point where it's more spiritual, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but you're absolutely right. Once that vocabulary builds and we normalize it, we have a new lifestyle. We have a new identity,
Mm-hmm.
new approach. People will approach us differently.
It
Society.
will be nice
Yeah,
because
yeah.
honestly,
But it starts with us, though. It really does start with us. So the emotional
it
accountability is your responsibility, definitely.
it does. And as a woman, I really want this for men.
Yeah.
Um, I want it for their betterment and for their overall improvement. And as a woman, I want it for our safety. I mean, this is just the reality. Most violent crime is done by men. It's not that women don't do violent crime,
Right. Right.
it's that most violent crime is done by men, and and women are killed by men.
Mm. And I
You
get the
know,
point. Yeah, I get it. I mean, yeah, when we
you
look
are
at studies,
in a
when
romantic relationship. If
yeah,
you're in a romantic relationship with a man, you're likely to be, I mean, you increase your likelihood of being hurt or
mm,
killed.
yeah, and it's going to be important when we focus on bettering ourselves. I truly believe that everything else around us becomes better, right? Because we are the center of that. And I think that can go both ways, right? That can be for women, that can be for men. The only reason I'm focusing on men, one, I am a man. Two, I have a daughter, and I don't want to raise her to not trust men. That's why I mentor young men, because I have to believe there are good men out there. A lot of
There's a
guys.
100% good men
Oh my
out
God, yeah, yeah.
there,
I mean, I
and
run
the
into them
message is
all the
not
time.
men are bad at all. As a matter of fact, men are beautiful, awesome, and
Right,
good.
right.
Okay, that is the reality. What I am
Yeah,
saying is that um, by men being very action oriented,
yep.
um,
Hmm.
and man is not emotionally accountable and responsible, bad things are more quickly to happen. It can, that flashpoint
Mm,
can happen quicker. You know, For the same reason that women may attempt suicide, but men get it done.
Women may, oh yeah,
Wo-
the lethality of it, right? Men, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Women attempt suicide a lot more than men, but
right,
but when, but men complete suicide a lot more than women.
yeah, yep.
Okay.
Statistically, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and so there's something about that emotional
Well, and that's what I was talking about with the
part.
expression. You know, as far as us expressing emotions, like it can go 0 to 100, right? A lot of the time, we
Exactly.
think
And
so.
so we've
We
gotta,
really want to be responsible about how we
right.
process
I'm
our
so
emotions.
invested
Yeah,
in men,
yeah, hmm
sharpening that saw, becoming accountable and
hmm
responsible because it's really for the betterment of our society.
exactly. Yeah, and that to me, I mean, it warms me to hear that too, because to say that it's better for society goes to show that men are not, you know, um, absent from society. Our value is still there. I mean, we just have
Yeah,
there are a
100%.
lot of distractions, whether it be social media and all of those kind of things. But when we do the inner work, and I think emotional intelligence, I think the level of empathy, feeling for someone versus as someone, that's very critical. Just in basic conversation.
Mm,
I mean, just general conversation, learning to feel for someone, because nobody really wants sympathy, to be honest. I mean, sympathy plays its role, but it's the empathy aspect. It's literally what April was talking about with the empathy, is being able to feel for someone.
mm,
If that's your foundation, that's where every human contact you come in, yeah, you have a high level. Trust me when I tell you, your emotional intelligence is going to be very high. You're going to
mm,
live a lifestyle that's totally different, and it will be very attractive to other men as well. They're going to want to seek that because they see how well it works. You know what I mean? But so we do have to have programs like men. I think not only in the school level, but in businesses, you name it, wherever I think it can be in so many different areas. It's just that it has to be a language curriculum that goes along with that, so we can identify it as a true language, and it doesn't scare anybody, like we said, we drop the F word and things of that nature. But
feelings.
yeah, yeah, and they're important. Like, feelings matter. Like, once we
Yeah, they do.
yeah,
I
definitely.
want to jump in and just get Jane to talk about what
Mhm.
she is doing in her business when it comes to this particular area and really connect it to how it can truly benefit our veterans if they kind of drill down in this area.
Well, I'm working on two new projects that have actually just come up in the last month that are interesting. One, I'm going to be doing an online group. It's like a paid subscription. It's like not very much money, but it's really targeted toward women. We call it like the sunny side of 40 or whatever.
Ah,
Um, it's something that's going to be more targeted toward women taking charge and going within. Now, what do I really want to do? I've been doing this and this and this and this, and then down the road, they can talk to each other every week, and I'll be on it, and having something special for them every day to do, and to think about and to report on with each other, and but hopefully then they'll want to use some of the tools that I offer. And or if they don't, that's fine too. But it's mainly it's for other women who are really looking for, like, what next? My gosh, I got married, I got my career, I've got these kids. Now, what about me? So that's part of that. Could be in anybody, and it's not just only women. I mean, if men want to come in, certainly they can. But it's a little. I suppose it's a little more marketing and kind of zeroing in on commonalities there. Um, but the other thing I'm doing, I got a call from a therapist from about who I've known for years, who lives about an hour away, and she wants me to work with her therapist friends, build a program for them about taking what I do and teaching them how to do it. Now, these are master's degree therapists, okay? And they said, we don't know how to do what you do. We we kind of get it here and there. So, and of course, depending on the organization that they work with, we may have to change some of the wording, which is not an issue at all. When I may say, you've all heard of progressive relaxation. They've been doing that since like the 70s. Well, that's what we'll call it. Instead, we'll go to a safe place inside of ourselves to get started. We'll go to our subconscious. They get that part, so people can go in and find things. How do we do this? How do we work with our clients? What are some of your stories? So, those are two things that I'm doing that are really geared toward for the therapist. They'll be working with anybody and everybody, and then the other group, of course, it's once again, they can come together, they can stay in it as long as they want, but it's having support and growth for their own inner. And whether it's kind of, I'm just going to say mid-career, 30s, 40s, it seems like most of the women that I work with, and a lot, honestly, I've had veteran women's coming to me. Now, what am I supposed to do? I feel like even when I left my last job, it was full time. It was like, I think 5 or 6 years ago. I thought, now what am I going to do? Well, believe me, it was a total trust in the universe or the God part of me. I knew it was time to go, but all the things that flooded in were, some of it was very painful, but some of it was quite amazing how well we were taken care of emotionally, spiritually, and that I was there for certain family members that needed me that I would not have been there for otherwise. And to be with them, I think I talked to Erica about this before, that I if I wouldn't have trusted that part of me, I would have missed the whole last 6 months of my mother's life to be with her every day.
Mhm.
So, but it was it's that trust part. And I knew I had to leave. I had all my logic lined up. But guess what? We can have it all lined up. And sometimes there's other plans in place. Um, Hopefully better, sometimes up, sometimes down. So I can see it as a lot of what I do is, whether it's for veterans or for other people, we leave things or we've done this and now what? How do we deal with this? And I will tell you, women and men both, the issues with emotions. How do I express it? A lot of women I know um, don't know how to express either. Comes off very blatant, very heavy. I just use the word unkind a lot. I don't know how else to describe it, but that's a good way for me to describe it
Mhm.
without being dark. But I think it is because they don't know. We as a society really don't know how to do that. Or if we do say that, you get ridiculed often for it. I'm a strong intuitionist. I'm a strong empath. You're talking about empathy. That's sort of ridiculed in a lot of different areas of
I'm glad it's cooking.
academia, business.
I agree with you. What I can say is this: I'm so thankful that spiritual intelligence is catching some traction. Empathy. I thought of you the other day, Dr. Lay. I was watching this program. It's called Chicago PD, and um, it was about an officer teaching empathy.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah, in
It-
the moment. It
so
was really great.
I'm down here in Texas, where as part of my doctoral program, we had to submit a capstone, and I created an empathy certification course for police officers, right? And I
Oh,
had
wow.
my first group was 47. It was 47 of them, and they were really cool. The thing about it is, a lot of them already had some idea of what empathy was, so that's why they were willing to join. I really wanted to make it mandatory, like every academy graduate, police academy graduate, have to go through this program. So now they can't say they don't know or they didn't know when it's time to put that badge on, right? But it was really successful in that, just the feedback I got from them. I got to do it for 2 years straight, and just finished this past summer. And it was such a cool thing to see these academy graduates, getting this level of education, of learning how to just have healthy intergroup contact with the people that they serve. If you're going to be out there, we know the badge causes some anxiety for people. The gun causes some anxiety for people. So going out there and be able to connect with someone, and build that level of intimacy with someone, where you can communicate and you can understand them for who they are, where they come from, everything, you see them then as an equal. That's a very powerful thing. And I give you an example real fast where I went out with a police officer who went through the program. 4 months later, I went out with him on the beat, and he's a Caucasian guy working in a predominantly Hispanic part of tech, Hispanic part of the city here. And he saw we rolled up on this guy. It was like a 10 o'clock at night. We rolled up on him, and all he did was see the back of the guy, right? And he called out his name, and I give you a fake name. He was like, "Hey Jones," or something like that, right? He said, "Hey man, what are you doing out here?" Like that. He said, "Man, get home. It's late." Gets back in the car. I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and I said, How did you know that was him?" He was like, "I know that walk anywhere." And that just like that really impacted me, because I'm like, that's all it took. Because he has so many interactions with the guy, he knows how he walks. So he didn't roll up on him, hit the light, put him on the ground because he's out at 10 o'clock at night or something like that. It wasn't handled that way. He literally, guy was like, oh yeah, I'm going now. And he heads home or whatever. I think he went home, but nonetheless, that police officer knew that person just by the way he walked. He saw him as an equal, like he knew how to talk to him. He knew his mother. He's like, you're not supposed to be out here tonight, kind of thing. And that to me, and I know it happens all the time with police officers, because there are definitely more good cops than bad cops. But the thing about it is, I just thought that that was so powerful from someone coming out of that program, and how he was able to build that rapport with just the people he worked with. I mean, in his community, and I thought that was really dope. He he saw the back of him, he knew how he walked, and that
Pretty
guy got home.
cool.
Yeah, it was pretty
Wow.
cool. So the empathy is definitely big. Intergroup contact is big. Healthy contact, that's huge. Yeah.
Mhm.
So definitely.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give each of you an opportunity to uh, give your closing advice, your closing remarks. Um, and I think I definitely want us to speak towards women veterans if we could, a little bit. We've definitely talked about men, which I love, but I don't want our girls who are out there serving our country, our women, our beautiful, strong, amazing women who are out there serving our country, to feel like they are uh, lost. So, who wants to go first? I can always pick, the teacher in me is like, okay,
I'll go first. I'll go first.
all right, April.
Well, I'm going to say this tool here, this computer, I'll call it a computer, gives women in particular, because we are very inquisitive by nature,
Mm-hmm.
access to so much information about their bodies when it comes to healthcare. Uh, and some of that information is not always accurate. It's not always the most appropriate for treating whatever their issues are when they come to see you. So it is extremely important, especially when it comes to the veteran population, because they are accustomed to accuracy, they're accustomed to protocols and procedures, and most of the time, they're going to know a lot more about things that you don't know about. So it is extremely important to make a connection with that individual so that you, first of all, can find out what's ailing them. You can build a system of trust with them, because when you have that, you have a better opportunity to, first of all, find out what's bugging them, what healthcare problems are they having, and once you come up with a solution to the problem, or what a healthcare plan, when you have that personal connection with that veteran, especially with women, then you have more compliance to care, more uh, feeling from them that they'll have to come back to return for their checkups and appointments. And you can talk about things in preventive care. And this is how you help women and veterans get the help they need. This is how you empower them to better healthcare outcomes.
Mm, excellent, excellent. Thank you for that because that is very useful. We actually have a caller. Old Blue is here. He is a veteran. So, welcome and thank you for coming.
Hello. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, we
I
can
really
hear
wasn't
you.
prepared for this, so I'm not sure if my technology is working at all.
No, you're fine. I was just curious, do you have a question or comment that you want to either ask one of the panelists or do you want to just share remarks out in general for the audience? Whichever one you like.
No, actually I'm caught completely off guard because I just got your link and said, well, this is for veterans, so I'll go show up, and I arrived just in time for closing remarks. So unfortunately, I
Well,
didn't really get to hear what anybody had to say. So
what I will just thank you for your service, and I thank you for listening. We've talked about some of the access. We've talked about spiritual, emotional, and physical. You know, talked about respecting our veterans' mind, body, and soul. Um, the idea that we talked about homelessness. We talked about the care that our veterans need, how things are very different from um, different generations. For instance, Dr. Lay was saying that the millennials and Generation X, they seem to be highly in tune to their needs. And April was just giving her closing remarks. And so I'm going to let Dr. Lay go ahead and speak with his closing remarks.
Yeah, I want to go back to for really for all of our veterans, right? And me being a active military member myself, and I will tell you in full, just being transparent here, as we make the topic or highlight women in the military, um, you know, being a mental health provider in the military and working with majority women. When you look at the field of therapy, it's majority women, right? 97% of, or 93%, excuse me, of therapy providers or mental health providers, excuse me, are women. And so it's just like that in our environment as well. And one thing for sure, I have learned throughout my military experience is the resiliency of women, their ability to navigate tough situations has been truly, I think, a blessing, especially in the field of therapy and in mental health. And when I talk about emotional accountability, making emotional accountability your responsibility, accountability is definitely on both sides. And I think making sure that as much as we promote men to go out there and take care of themselves, um, their mental health, their emotional, spiritual well-being, their physical well-being, those same sentiments are passed over to women as well. They are the minority group in the military as a whole, but they have a very I would say strong bite, in the military and how we're moving from in our policies and the way that we do things, the way that we communicate with each other, on an everyday basis. It's definitely more scrutinized and monitored as it should be because we're changing culture, we're changing a lifestyle. So I would definitely say for women that you're definitely not alone in this, and as it comes as our services roll out, especially active duty military individuals, keep making you really an an important factor in that, in our way of being, whether it be selfless service and excellence in all we do, and integrity and all those different creeds that we live by. I think for all of us as veterans, in order for us to uphold that, we really have to take care of ourselves. So we have to utilize the resources. We have to hold ourselves accountable and recognize when we need these resources. We have access to them. That's without a doubt. They're there. But we really have to understand that taking care of the military, in order to take care of the military, we have to take care of us. So that's my statement. Peace.
Sounds good. I like it. I like it. I like it. All right. Bring us home, Jane.
Well, after hearing the two of them, they're both, wow, what strong statements you both made. Mine's going to be brief. Basically, since we're targeting women, and I have had women friends and clients who've been in the military, but I think most of all, listen to your intuition. Always listen to your intuition. And, I think we're always, even though we have it, everybody has it, but we're targeting women. Listen and honor that part of you. And that to help make those decisions that we think aren't logical, but really are logical when you really get down to it. And the other thing, there's a book and you probably all heard of it, Bruce Lipton's The Biology of Belief. And that's all really about, once again, creating your own belief. When your belief systems, when you create your belief systems, you create healthier bodies, healthier you. And there's just so much on body, mind, and soul when it comes to the biology of belief and what you believe and what you know to be true. So those are my closing statements. Just they're almost a little how-tos, but almost it's valid research. I have meetings next week with actually a company, a book publisher, on intuition. So, and there's been a lot written on it, but you know what? I think that's, everybody has it, men and women alike, but we're targeting women now. So listen to that, honor that, because that's who you are. And that will get us through all. If we're allowed, as Dr. Lay says, we're opening up more, the cultures are changing. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I hope that means to everybody, to all of us. So get to work on that. But anyhow, thank you for having me here.
It is a pleasure. I'm so thankful that I've gotten to spend this time with you all. And I'm thankful that I've gotten to spend time with you, family, today, my audience. I'm so thankful for you. I'm grateful for the time that you spend here with me. Thank you for helping this show respect our veterans' mind, body, and soul. And for now, I'll simply say bye-bye for now. Have a great weekend. You're winning. You're winning. You're winning. You're winning.